Noobs has entered Elden Ring. I personally cannot wait to bust out my level 15 Invader Smurf build and absolutely stomp countless noobs into the ground. Alas, I have a soft heart, and I can't stand to have such an overwhelming advantage over them. Well, okay, I can, and I in fact do enjoy that, but I'm also nice. So today, I'm going to even the playing field just a little bit by giving you new players a guide on how to get started in Elden Ring. This is a huge and deep game with a lot of mechanics, and it can definitely feel overwhelming at times. But after following this guide, you'll be confident in your knowledge of where to go, what to do, and how to do it. Make sure you check out the timestamps down in the description so you can see what different tips and stuff I'll be telling you. And if you find this video helpful, please leave a like, share the video, and consider subscribing. It really helps me out. And with all that said, let's get into Elden Ring. First, I want to set you up with some universal information that applies to any class you choose and any build you make. These are going to be the basics of the game and the fundamentals of how you should approach it, so above all else, make sure you follow my advice in this section of the guide. Elden Ring's core gameplay loop looks something like this. You explore a huge open world in which you'll find dungeons and other places full of bad guys and loot. You have a set number of healing flasks which determine how many mistakes you can make before you die. You'll find sites of grace throughout the world and larger dungeons, and these are basically checkpoints where you can respawn if you die. Alternatively, if you're in a dungeon and you've made too many mistakes, and you're not sure you can make it to the next grace without dying, you can head back to the previous grace and rest at it to refresh your character and refill your flasks. This comes at a cost, however, because it'll also make most or all of the enemies respawn. But now that you have an idea of what to expect, hopefully you can do better this time and make it further in before running out of flasks, preferably to the next grace. Along the way, you'll gain rooms from killing enemies and find weapons, spells, armor, and other loot which you can use to upgrade your weapons and improve your build. Do this enough, and once you reach the boss, you'll be able to kill them for lots of runes and strong loot. And once you're done with the dungeon, you can go back to the open world and repeat the process. Now, I want to address the most common questions people have when they start this game. Why the hell is it so hard? How do people have fun dying over and over again? And the answer to those questions are as follows. 1. It's seriously not nearly as hard as you think it is, trust me. And 2, they don't. Dying is absolutely something you're gonna have to get used to in this game, but there are some pretty simple tips which aren't always immediately apparent to new players. I know I definitely had a hard time before I realized some of the stuff, and once you follow them, you're gonna die a lot less and have a way better time with Elden Ring. Number 1, above all else, if there is anything that you take away from this video, let it be this. Level your fucking vigor stat. This is usually the thing which determines whether or not somebody is gonna have a good time with Elden Ring. Vigor determines your maximum health. This is a game where there are lots of enemies which attack you fast and hit hard, so it should go without saying that increasing your max health is a good way to stay alive. In fact, it's the best way to stay alive. Vigor is far and away the most efficient stat to level in terms of what returns you get per point spent in it. Compared to what you get from wearing heavy armor sets, it's not even close. A few points into Vigor can increase your effective health by upwards of 300 to 450%, whereas the heaviest armor sets in the game will increase it by only around 33%. Believe me, I know you want to level your strength so you can do more damage with your big-ass sword, or level your intelligence so you can do more damage with your pew-pew lasers, or level endurance so you can wear super heavy armor, but none of that matters if you don't have the vigor to back it up. If you have a sword that can kill the bad guys in 3 hits, but the bad guys can kill you in 1 hit, then you're never going to kill the bad guys, right? You might think that you can just dodge good and don't get hit, but that's a skill which takes a lot of practice and memorization to learn. And even the best players in the world, like Gino Machino, who is so badass that he regularly beats literally all 207 bosses in the game without getting hit a single time. Even he will level Vigor up when he's not doing a no-hit run, because it's seriously just that important. It doesn't matter what your build is, doesn't matter if you're a mage who stays at range from your enemies, or if you're a dude with a big ass shield and super heavy armor. You seriously need Vigor in this game. My recommendation is that you level Vigor to 30 before you level up any other stats. Seriously, get 30 Vigor before you put a single point in any other stat.
You know, it's kind of funny that this video is saying this because I remember playing Dark Souls 2. And this guy was telling me, "Oh, why are you leveling your health so high?" You know, and he was like, just like talking a bunch of shit about how I used to level my vigor so high. I just think it's kind of funny.
Trust me. After that, you can level up your other stats a bit. I'll talk about that more in the build section of this video. And then you want to get 40 Vigor by the time you reach Renala in Raya Lucaria Academy. She's basically the second major boss. And you want 60 Vigor by the end of the game. Follow this leveling scheme and you will have a great time with Elden Ring, I promise. Number 2. So you might be saying, okay Diabetor, Vigor is cool and all, but how do I kill the bad guys if I don't level up my damage stats? That's a good question, and my answer is that you're wrong about the importance of your damage stats. The second thing which I often see people struggle with, and which makes them bounce off of this game, is that they neglect to upgrade their weapons. Everyone just kind of assumes that Elden Ring is like other RPGs, where your character's stats have a major impact on the effectiveness of your weapons and stuff, but at least in the early game, that's just not how Elden Ring works. In Elden Ring, most of your damage comes from weapon upgrades and buffs. I often see people not upgrade their weapons, and
Honestly, I had no idea that this game had buffs. Kind of cool.
then they go through like half of the game wondering why every boss fight is a slog and their huge swords hit like wet noodles. We'll talk about buffs more in a minute, but weapon upgrades are super simple. As you explore, you'll find smithing stones throughout the world. You can take these smithing stones to an anvil or a blacksmith and use them to upgrade your weapons. This will increase the base damage of the weapon, as well as the attribute scaling, which determines how much damage you get from your stats. We'll talk about that more later. And together, these things will significantly increase your damage. As a quick example, here's a heavy brick hammer at +0, so it's not upgraded at all. This hammer gets the highest strength scaling in the game, so leveling strength is really good at increasing its damage. If I level my strength to 99 and two-hand it, which increases my effective strength by 50%, meaning I essentially have 148 strength, you'll see it gets about 249 attack power. Meanwhile, if I take that same hammer, give my character the bare minimum strength required to wield it, and just upgrade the hammer, the first one gets outclassed by the time this hammer reaches +6 out of a maximum upgrade of +25. Believe me, it is way faster and easier to get a literally infinite supply of smithing stones to reach +6 or even higher than it is to get 99 in any stats. I'll tell you where you can find tons of smithing stones later on, but seriously, make sure you explore and keep an eye out for them, and upgrade your weapons as often as possible. Even your starting weapon can easily carry you through to the end of the game as long as you make sure you keep upgrading it, and there are tons of smithing stones out there, so don't be afraid to upgrade your stuff and make sure you do it as often as you can. Number 3. Buffs. If you ever watch any kind of gameplay video where you see the dude just taking off huge chunks of the enemy's health, or even one-shotting bosses and stuff, you might wonder how they pull that off. The answer is buffs. Buffs are a quick and easy way to significantly increase the effectiveness of your build, and there are a bunch of buffs you can get literally within 10 minutes of starting the game, and which work for any build. Now, if you want to one-shot bosses, then yeah, you're going to need to put a lot of effort into buffing, and you're going
This is Elden Ring, and so far in my time in this community, I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of builds posted by the community, and I myself have tried a ton of different builds, but there are a couple that I always see in the community get reposted over and over again, and I've distilled it down into 12 main different builds that I guarantee you are using at least one of. And the first one is the you love smashing shit with smashy things hard in the face. Your favorite weapons are Big Hammer, Bigger Hammer, Spiky Hammer, and Big Anchor. Your STR level is the same as your IQ IRL, but at least it's fun, right? One of the best and easiest ways to get into the game, and one of the simplest to do. I suggest Spiky Hammers, by the way, if you want a suggestion. They apply bleed too and can absolutely destroy fools. They also have the added benefit of grease. The low IQ int/faith builds like big weapons, but want to balance it out with either incantations or intelligence for ranged attacks that are still powerful and a little better than just your average strength build. You'll also be able to buff your weapons easily this way to add more depth to your builds than just a pure strength build. Being able to put on Black Flame Blade, Electrify Blade, or other blade. That's not coming to my head right now. You get the IQ and the strength. Patrick Bacon. Faith builds use predominantly fire or black flame attacks instead of glintstone. Is it because you like the fact it does damage over time? Yes it is. Maybe though you prefer the Dragon Breath builds, because you want to make the game harder than it already is. You like to make the game more calculated, having to know exactly when to attack. Faith builds are fun, you get all of the positives of all of the consumables, like Flame Grant Me Strength or Flame Cleanse Me, without having to craft the entire planet's supply of boluses. Faith builds have a good mixture of ranged attacks, healing abilities, and more. Comet Azure abusing piece of shit. No. Maybe you like to use Comet Azure, or you just like using any other glintstone attack. Intelligence builds get the best of all worlds. An insane bow that you can use at any time that actually is 10 times better than any other bow in the game. Big sword, big hammer. The great thing about intelligence and mage builds is you level up one stat but get access to the benefits of all the other builds. Why level strength up to 60 to use a huge hammer when there's a spell for a huge hammer? I'll give you this bonk builds. You can do a hell of a lot of damage, but pure mage builds have the added benefit of being the most wide-ranging. Dex builds. You like katanas? No, that's literally it. I think the only other weapon I know with decent dex scaling is Bloodhound's Fang. Actually, let me Google it real quick. So it's basically all katanas and like 2 dual blades, which is fair enough. Dual blades can be insane with the right build, I'll give you that. There's not much else to say on this build type. The strength dex builds have the best of 2 worlds. A perfect example is the Mirai Executioner Sword. It has a very similar talisman collection to the dual blade and dex weapons that hit many times a second, but being a great sword, it has strength scaling too, and poise breaks very often. A great all-around weapon. The Nagakiba is also a similar weapon. Being a large katana, it has one of the better poise breaking capabilities out of all the katanas, but it can also be imbued with any of the greases for additional damage, which you can't do with Rivers of Blood or Moonveil. There are a lot of weapons that are slept on in this game. Weapons you can get rather easily and can be absolutely tanky when buffed correctly with the right talismans. The Nagakiba is one of them. Builds with weapons that have unique Ashes of War have benefits, but a lot of them have downsides. A lot of weapons with the Ashes of War that actually slap can't be buffed by grease buffs, which limits what bosses it will actually be good against, whereas some weapons in this category can be buffed with grease, like the Bloodhound's Fang. For some weapons, this can mean a massive difference in damage, and because some of them, like the Moonlight Greatsword or Moonveil, use magic to buff their damage further, there aren't many consumables, but as an alternative you can use things like Terra Magica to compensate. Some of these weapons do more damage than their counterparts, but a lot of times unique Ashes of War can be super overrated. They're cool, but overrated, especially with certain bosses having resistances to magic attacks. For example, with Moonveil, the ability to not apply a grease, like just putting blood grease on Bloodhound's Fang, means that you're actually losing damage you could be doing to the boss. Builds with weapons that have standard Ashes of War are some of the best in the game. Being able to duplicate Ashes of War and apply them to a weapon you're dual stancing can result in insane damage numbers, and the ability to just BMW versus school children crossing the road any boss in the game. These weapons shine against boss fights like Millennia, especially the colossal or heavy weapons that can be buffed with greases and do even more damage. There are other buffs that can increase their damage even further, like Meat, which don't increase int, faith, or arcane based attacks, but do for strength based attacks. This next category I've named Hugs and Kisses, because with these weapons, to use them, you have to get so close to hug or kiss the enemies.
Oh, that's a lot of damage!
The Hugs and Kisses weapons are weapons like spiky balls, smooth balls, testicular cancer. There are some others though besides the compensation weapons mentioned because I have uncommonly small balls. There are also the other close range weapons like daggers that I've never seriously seen anyone use except maybe the blood ones or the rot ones. There are two possibilities for this next one. Either you're the one guy in the group that weighs 300 pounds on the scale and also somehow uses a bow in Elden Ring as your main weapon, or you just use magic. And we've already covered the magic users, so moving on. The meme builds are those guys actually using daggers. Come on guys, give it a break. No one outside of challenges or challenge videos would consciously use a terrible weapon like the club at max level when you can use literally anything else. The weird thing is, right, Moonveil builds, Rivers of Blood builds, all these builds are meme builds too, because the mentality that some have is if you use these weapons, you're bad at the game, get good loser. But like, have you actually tried to use them? I've found 10 other weapons you'd use in a heartbeat that are way better. Let people use what they want to use. I still see your shadows in my room next to the noose I'm going to.
My name is Walter Hardwell White.
This category is the I'm not like other girls. And you see how you physically recoiled after that beginning? That's what seeing this build is like. There are two reactions to one of these builds. Either disgust at the fact that the build procs both Scarlet Rot and Bleed, I mean goddamn give the boss a break man, or utter cringe at the fact I actually referenced a song from 2018 to 2024. No, I meant at the fact that this build is so shamelessly trying to be unique that you know it's going to be a 5 of 10 anyway. I almost didn't do this, but here are two bonuses. The first, we have the status builds. Now I've just talked about this, basically having two different status on one weapon. You'll only play with weapons
Hello there friends and welcome. This is a guide for how to quickly gain power with your faith-based caster, so prophets and so on, with all of the mechanics you need to know to make your caster viable in the early game, so that later on you have enough power to easily take on any of the challenges the game has to offer as you find new gear and spells. First, let's get started with some pretty basic mechanics for your faith spellcaster. For your starter class, I recommend you go with Prophet, as it is, well, the most classic cleric or miracle
Don't worry, Torrent. Fortune is on his side. We found him here, after all. One of his kind is sure to seek the Elden Ring. Even if it does violate the Golden Order.
Hey friends, welcome to my channel. Let's kick off part 1 of the Elden. Right at the very his dirty little game with a
Fortune is on his Elden Ring.
Oh, yes. Tarnished, are we? Come to the lands between for the Elden Ring? Hmm? Of course you have. No shame in it. Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless. Without guidance, without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the Round Table Hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity. Luckily for you, however, there is one shining ray of hope for even the maidenless. Me. Vare. Take care to listen. Are you familiar with grace? The golden light that gives life to you tarnished. You may also behold its golden rays, pointing in a particular direction at times. That is the guidance of grace, the path that a tarnished must travel. Indeed. Grace's guidance holds the answers. It will lead you tarnished to the path you are meant to follow, even if it leads you to your grave. Grace's guidance will reveal the castle, the home.
You're tarnished. I can see it. And I can also see that you're not after my throat. Then why not purchase a little something? I am Kale. Goodbye for now.
Greetings, traveler from beyond the fog. I am Melina. I offer you an accord. Have you heard of the Finger Maidens? They serve the Two Fingers, offering guidance and aid to the Tarnished. But you, I am afraid, are maidenless. I can play the role of maiden, turning runes into strength to aid you in your search for the Elden Ring. You need only take me with you to the foot of the Erd Tree. Then it's settled. Summon me by grace to turn runes into strength. Ah, another matter. I bequeath to you this ring. Use it to traverse great distances. It will summon a spectral steed named Torrent. Torrent has chosen you. Treat him with respect. Shall I turn your runes to strength? Let my hand rest upon you. For but a moment, share them with me. Your thoughts, your ambitions, the principles you would follow.
So Jason, I have...
Elden Ring is awesome, but let's be honest, this game expects you to have 200 hours of free time every week. And sure, that's perfect if you're a turbo nerd like me, but what if you have a normal job, kids, or even a girlfriend? So where do you find the time to learn this endless list of buffs, skills, talismans, spreadsheets, and whatever arcane stat is? Well, you don't need to do all that, because I already did the homework for you. That's the whole point of this guide. In this video, you'll learn how to become instant OP in under an hour, which weapon is actually the best in the early game, and how to make Elden Ring a fun game. Not your second job. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's dive in. In this run, I'll walk you through the entire path as if we just bought the game. We'll start with absolutely nothing and end up deleting bosses like this. So, we start a new game, and the first thing we need to do is choose a class. Our choice is Samurai. He's got armor, great starting stats, a bleed weapon, and he just looks awesome. For the keepsake, the best pick is the Golden Seed, because it gives you an extra flask charge, and healing gives the biggest impact in the early game. We spawn in, skip the first boss, don't worry, they want you to lose to, and take the elevator up to the guy in the white mask. And this is where the real run begins. On the right side of the screen, you'll see a live map, like Google Maps for Elden Ring, so you can follow our route in real time. And on the left, there's a timer, keeping track of exactly how long this whole thing takes. From here, we head straight toward the Church of Ella. On the way, you'll see a massive guy on a horse with a halberd. Do not fight him. This boss deletes more new players than almost anything else in Elden Ring. After bravely skipping him like a true warrior, we reach the Church of Ella and activate the Sight of Grace inside, and follow that big glowing arch in the sky. It literally points us straight to the next grace. And waiting there is our brand new waifu. On the way, you will see soldiers and a camp. Don't fight them, just run past on the left side and sit at the grace. Melina appears and gives us our horse. Equip it, and we ride straight to the gatefront camp. Inside the camp, we pick up the map fragment, and in a small underground room, we grab the whetstone knife. This item allows us to put Ashes of War on your weapon. These are skills for your weapons. They can look cool, super cool, or absolutely insane. But the main thing is, each one gives you either a unique attack or a strong buff. And while I was explaining all that, we already made it to the bridge, where another boss on a horse is waiting to ruin our day. And I promise you, not every boss in this game is on a horse. This is just a very unlucky coincidence. We skip him completely and go straight to the guy chilling on the chair. He'll still try to chase you, but I am pro, so I just grab the somber smithing stone one and dodge his attack and keep moving along the road. There, you'll see giants pulling a wagon. Ignore them, we don't need anything from them yet. Instead, after you pass the giants, turn left and go to the big cross guarded by cultists. Grab the gold-pickled Foulfoot. When you activate it, you'll see a buff icon on top of the screen that gives you extra runes from every enemy for a short time. We don't need it right now, but we will get it later. After that, go back to the road and keep running straight until we reach the next Site of Grace. Activate it, go directly toward this point on the map. Most players take a long way around, but I'll show you the shorter path. We ride straight uphill until we reach an area full of graves. There are runes inside them, but they give very little, so we don't waste time on that. We have bigger plans than picking up pocket change. Right behind the graveyard, there's a spirit spring. These are special elevators. When you jump into them on your horse, you won't take fall damage.
So just jump down with confidence, you won't die. From the Spirit Spring, we head straight toward the next part of the map. On the way, you'll see some very angry bears. And we, of course, bravely skip them and do not engage. While we were running earlier, you might have heard a howl in the forest. If you did, that means we're headed in the right direction. Pick up the map fragment and follow the road until we reach another church. Inside this church, we get the Flask of Wondrous Physic, an additional flask that lets us apply extra buffs for boss fights. You can fill it in the Site of Grace. We'll also grab the Crystal Tears, which improve the power of our main flask. Right away, we upgrade our flask. +1 charge for healing, and the tears increase its effectiveness, meaning you heal for more every time you use it. We teleport back to the first church of Ella. We talk to the Rani there. She will tell us some Elden Ring lore and show us her beautiful legs. But what matters most is that she gives you the Spirit Calling Bell. It lets you summon spirits to help you and makes the game much easier, though we won't really be using them, or almost won't. Our next step is to talk to this merchant. You can consume a few runes we picked up earlier to buy the crafting kit. We'll need it later for crafting buffs and other useful consumables. Then we choose the dialogue option about what's happening in the woods. He tells us a story. We skip the dialogue, and he teaches us a gesture. After that, we put this gesture on our quick menu and teleport back to the forest. Then we head straight to the ruins, the creepy place where we heard that noise earlier. Then use the gesture near the big tower, and a tall guy with a wolf mask comes down. We talk to him, skip the dialogue, and go to the opposite side of the ruins. There's a huge tree there, and near the tree, we pick up 2 crystal tears that we can put into our physic flask later. Once we grab everything we need, our path leads us to the first interesting boss. We teleport to the Site of Grace we activated earlier, this one right here on the map, and then we go to this circle. Whenever you see a circle like this on the map, that means there's an optional boss there. Some of these require you to use special stones keys to activate them, but most of them activate just by stepping inside the circle. And that's what we do now. We step into the circle, activate the fight, and stay in the place. Don't rush. You'll see a summoning sign. That's our new wolf mask buddy. Summon him, and only then run toward the boss. Of course, I didn't do that on my first try, so I took a couple of hitting, but I'm sure you will do it the correct way. Our new body is strong enough to handle the boss mostly on its own, but will also assist him with a few hits.
Hello, how are you? I am under the water. Please help me.
After the boss goes down, make sure to talk to the wolf guy again. He'll give us another upgrade stone, but the main thing here is the weapon we loot from the boss. This is one of the strongest weapons you can get in this entire region, and honestly, one of the best early game weapons in the game. We check it in the inventory. It's good, but not great yet. At least it needs some upgrades. So we teleported back to the Godric Castle and ran for the updates. This path allows us to skip a few bosses along the way and reach the next area. Thankfully, the developers left a legal shortcut here, and because of that, early game builds have become a lot more interesting. The most important thing here is not to miss this turn. After that, it's just a straight road. As soon as we sit at a grace, Melina interrupts us and teleports us to the Round Table Hold. There you'll find a bunch of useless Tarnished wandering around, and one very useful blacksmith. So we talk to him once.
Alright, with all the seals done at the Round Table, we fast travel back to Liurnia. Just keep running straight, you'll pass a small camp, a church, and a few other spots. But our main goal is the shrine down the hill by the river. Our next target now is to uncover the map, because without a map, we have no idea where we're going. So we're riding straight to this point on the map to pick up the next map fragment. But the map won't be handed to us for free. It's guarded by 3 huge creatures, 12 arms total, and they're very ready to ruin our day.
You are dead!
So we just bait them a bit, run around them, grab the map fragment, and leave. Then we continue on the road until we reach another important spot. This ruined battlefield has a lot of history behind it. Huge wars, ancient events. If you want to learn more, you can check out our Elden Ring lore video. It'll be on screen right here. But what is more important, this road is full of giant lobsters. They hit hard, so just avoid them. Meanwhile, we reach another church, grab the golden seed, and now a big section of the map is revealed. You'll notice a small island on the map, and that's exactly where we're going next. There's an important buff for our weapon there. We sprint across the water area while ignoring all kinds of enemies until we reach the island. I'll probably just put music here because it's literally just running. Nothing else to comment on. Once we're on the island, we go to the right side and spot the scarabs. There are 2 of them. The closed one is a bait. We need the one farther away. A couple of katana hits, and we get the buff Blood Flame Blade. It adds fire damage and increases bleed buildup even faster. Next, from this island, we go to the point right here on the map. There's another crystal tier there. This one boosts dexterity, which increases our fang's damage. There will be some strange-looking cultist enemies guarding the area. Yes, they have a lot of lore behind them. Blood cults and experiments, but we don't need any of that right now. We just pick up the tier and move on. Now begins the longest straight run we've done so far. There's no shortcut, so for the next 2 minutes, you're basically watching horse racing, which means it is an ideal time to explain how our weapon works. First, it has bleed built into it. That means if we hit a boss around 5 times, bleed procs and instantly removes about 8% of their max HP. You can see this in the weapon description. If you see a weapon with bleed buildup on the card, it means it can trigger a burst of damage like that. In our case, in just 5-6 hits.
Now in this video, I'm going to show you a really
Some of the most popular builds involve Strength, Dex, or even Arcane, but what you just saw is the potential of a Faith build. It has some of the coolest and most powerful spells in the game, and a lot of different builds. But which one of them is actually the best? In this video, we're going to take the strongest, coolest, and most popular Faith builds. We'll test them at different stages of the game, on regular enemies, and on bosses. After that, we'll put everything into a table so we can finally decide objectively which of these builds is the best in the entire game. And it's going to be super cool. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's dive in. So why do Faith builds actually look this insanely cool, like we just cut a seam straight out of a cinematic? There are a few reasons for that. First of all, Faith builds use incantations. These are basically spells, but for people who believe. If you don't believe, you can't use them. They are strong. Second, there are Ashes of War on weapons. Many faith-based weapons have really strong Ashes of War. They deal a lot of damage, hit in an area, make it easy to clear dungeons, and can even heal you through lifesteal effects. And of course, there are buffs. To use most buffs in the game, you need faith. And the more faith you have, the stronger the buffs you can use. Basically, Faith builds are like playing a paladin in Warcraft, but with spells that have much better visuals. Now that you understand what Faith builds give you, the only thing left is to figure out which one of them is the strongest. To do that, I went through Google, Reddit, and YouTube to see which Faith builds are the most popular and the strongest right now. Then I went into the game, tested them on different bosses, mobs, and get the results. We'll face a total of 3 bosses: an early game boss, a mid game boss, and an end game boss. We'll face the same bosses across all 4 builds. I also made sure that the bosses we'll go up against are either neutral against our damage type. This is so we can judge all 4 builds properly and fairly. We'll also have these builds run through the different sections of the game normally to see just how well it does outside of boss encounters. What use are the boss fights if you can't get there, right? All of them were played at level 150, with the Faith stat locked at 60. Now, let's start with the very first build, the Blasphemous Blade build. The Blasphemous Blade has been one of the most reliable Faith weapons since Elden Ring came out, and it's only gotten better since. On top of being an absolute drip, this weapon slaps for one reason. It's Ash of War, Taker's Flame. When performed, it deals substantial fire damage to enemies, and it heals you by 10% of your max health plus 40. That's not bad, isn't it? That said, its standard attacks aren't too shabby as well. The weapon is a greatsword, which means it's not too slow while still being hard-hitting enough to stunlock smaller enemies. But the Ash of War will be our primary damage dealer. The build will be centered around you spamming this skill to oblivion until your enemies give up on life. You can use any armor set for this build, but for the sake of aesthetics, I recommend using the Rakshasa set to give you that crazy damage. Plus, it also boasts an impressive defense and poise rating, which means you won't stagger as easily. If you don't have the DLC, you can use the Veteran set instead. It works really well too. Let's move to the stats. We need 50 Vigor for that perfect endgame Vigor rating, Mind at 32, which should be enough for our skill spam, Endurance at 25, enough for the gear we carry, and the rest goes into Faith, because that's what our damage scales with. This is what your stats should look like. For your spells, we'll stick with the Flames Grant Me Strength for a 20% damage boost. You can use other fire-based spells, but we're holding off on that because this build is centered around our main weapon. Besides, we have a fire-based build to showcase later on. That's something to look forward to. For your talismans, we'll go with the Talisman of the Dread for 15% added magma attack damage, which is what the Taker's Flame deals, the Fire Scorpion Charm for 12% more fire damage, also to make your Ash of War more powerful, the Shard of Alexander, which boosts the power of skills by 15%, and for defense, we'll go for the Dragon Crest Great Shield. You can swap that last talisman around depending on the damage type the boss you're fighting does, but for now, we're going with this one. For your physic, use the Flame Shrouding Cracked tier for 20% more fire damage and the Blood Sucking Cracked tier. This tier increases your offensive powers by 20% more in exchange for a few ticks of HP every second. This downside isn't a big deal for us because remember, the Taker's Flame heals you every time you attack with it. This means we get the benefit of the tier without its drawback. With that, here's where you can acquire everything. You can get the Blasphemous Blade by trading Rykard's Remembrance with Enya at the Round Table Hold. The Rakshasa set is dropped by the boss it's named after, found at the Eastern Nameless Mausoleum in the DLC. You can get here by starting at the Shadowkeep and following this path. For the Flame Grant Me Strength, head to Fort Gale in Caelid, you'll find on the outer wall, guarded by 2 flame chariots. Now the talismans. For the Talisman of the Dread, you can find it on the Elder's Hovel Shack, found behind the Fort of Reprimand. The Fire Scorpion Charm is at Fort Laed on Mount Gelmir. It's on this rampart here. Easy pickings. As for the Shard of Alexander, you get this talisman by completing Alexander's questline and defeating him at Crumbling Farum Azula. We love this guy, but he had a 0 chance here. Sorry bro, your shards are mine now. Finally, the Dragon Crest Great Shield. This is found on Elphael, Brace of the Halig Tree.
from the drainage channel side of Grace, continue forward and follow this path until you reach the chest. All that's left now are the crystal tiers. Let's start with the flame shrouding tier. This is dropped by the Erd Tree avatar at this minor Erd Tree north of the Smoldering Church in Caelid. Just defeat the boss and the item is yours. Then, head to the DLC and make your way to the ruins of Unta. There's a furnace golem here you can wake up by throwing a hefty fire pot on its head. Defeat this humongous walking splinter to get the blood-sucking cracked tier. If you don't have access to the DLC, you can swap some of these for items you'll find in the base game instead. For the armor, you can instead choose the Crucible set. Axe or tree is fine either way, for similar defense ratings and aesthetics. You get the axe set by defeating this guy at the end of the Oriza hero's grave, and you can get the tree set by opening this chest here. You can swap out the Talisman of the Dread with the Ritual Sword Talisman, which increases your attacks by 10% when you're at full HP. You can pick it up after defeating this boss at Lux Ruins. As for the blood-sucking cracked tier, you can swap it to the Faith Knot Crystal tier, which increases your faith stat by 10 points for 3 minutes. You can find this crystal tier here. Alright, that's that. Now, let's test the build against bosses. First up, Margit. Now remember, our first test is against an early game boss, just to show you how ridiculous these builds can be. Well, this is how.
Emotional damage!
A measly 20 seconds for the full boss fight to be over. He didn't even get the chance to make an inappropriate comment about the blood in my veins. That result, while incredible, was honestly expected. So now, let's try to test it against a stronger boss. The representative of the mid-game bosses will be Commander Nile. The fight against Nile took a bit longer. He's a tough boss and can hit extremely hard. Thankfully, our Ash of War does too. After easily getting rid of the summons, 5 attacks of our skill were enough to bring the boss down. This notoriously difficult fight was done in under a minute. Now, let's test it against an endgame boss. We'll use Placidusax as our guinea dragon? Placidusax is arguably one of the toughest bosses in the game, and we're choosing him for our sample because he is neither weak nor resistant to our damage types, making this matchup fair to judge. Placidusax's HP and high defense are certainly nothing to scoff at. That said, with all buffs active, each strike from the Taker's Flame takes about 2,500 of his HP. The boss fight was just all about finding the right openings, proper positioning, and hitting him with the Ash of War. I was able to defeat this giant, magnificent dragon in about 4 minutes and 30 seconds using this build. That's a long time, but Placidusax is also one of the most durable bosses in Elden Ring. Plus, there are many moments in the fight that require us to wait for his attacks or run around, extending the duration further.
Mobs don't stand a chance either. The Taker's Flame is way too OP for regular enemies, and the fact that there are more of them to hit just means more healing for you. Even the regular melee attacks are enough to bring enemies down. Whether you're passing through a cave, a tunnel, or a legacy dungeon, this weapon allows you to breeze through everything. Considering the Taker's Flame deal pure fire damage, there are several enemies in the game who are resistant to our attacks, and a few who are outright immune to it. Here's a full list of enemies who are resistant to fire damage, which include dragons, crucible knights, and the fire giant, and here are the ones who are completely immune to it, which means any hit you land doesn't hurt them at all. This list includes the final form of Iron Fist Alexander and the Magma Worm at the Seathwater Terminus. That said, normal melee attacks with the Blasphemous Blade still hurt them considering our standard attacks deal physical damage. On the other hand, there are also a wide range of enemies who are weak against fire damage, meaning these guys will fall faster from our attacks. Here's a full list, but a few notable ones include Finger Creepers, Erd Tree Avatars, which also happens to include the Putrid variation, Ulcerated Tree Spirit, and even the Scadu Tree Avatar. Once you get used to the skill's wind-up duration and really nail its timing, this build is a true powerhouse. Your skill hits like a bullet train on fire, and you never have to worry about healing. Your skill tops up your HP the more aggressive you are. It's very rewarding, and most importantly, it's incredibly powerful. Moving on to our next build, which I like to call the Death Knight Dragon Cult build. The highlights for this one are the Dragon Cult incantations, but we're also going to be using a melee weapon to diversify our offensive options and to make our build more efficient. Speaking of which, our main weapon will be the Death Knight's twin axes. This is a really powerful and flashy lightning weapon that was introduced in the DLC. It becomes a paired weapon when you two-hand it, which means you get the speed and aggression of power stancing in just one weapon. Plus, it has an awesome Ash of War. Just look at this. But what is even more awesome is the Dragon Cult incantations. First, we've got the Dragon Bolt of Florisax, which boosts damage negation by 10% while covering us with red lightning aura. Then, we'll pair this with Electrocharge, another incantation that surrounds us with yellow lightning, while also dealing lightning damage all around us. Really, we're taking advantage of these for the visuals. No shame there. Then, we have the Knight's Lightning Spear, the Honed Bolt, Fortisax's Lightning Spear, and the Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike. All of these combined, and you should have enough spells in your arsenal to deal with enemies and bosses of all sizes and movement speed. We can't cast our spells without a Sacred Seal, and for this build, we're going with the Graven Stone Seal. Why this one exactly? Because it boosts the attack power for Dragon Cult incantations specifically. We're making ourselves even more powerful here. Now, let's talk about our armor set. For this build, we'll be wearing the Death Knight's full set. We're choosing this not only because of how it looks, but also because it raises the damage of our Dragon Cult spells by 8%. As for your stats, it's pretty much the same as the previous build, adjusted only to account for our main weapon. For our talismans, we're running with the Radagon icon to shorten the casting time of our spells, the Light Knight Scorpion Charm to increase lightning damage by 12%, Godfrey icon to enhance charge spells and skills by 15%, and the Dragon Crest Great Shield for defense. To round it all up, we have our Crystal Tiers. We're mixing the Lightning Shrouding Cracked tier and the Holy Shrouding Cracked tier for a 20% boost in both lightning and holy damage. Alright, cool? Let's talk about where to get these things. The Death Knight's twin axes are dropped by the Death Knight boss at the Fog Rift Catacombs in the DLC. The Death Knight set, on the other hand, is found in the Darklight Catacombs in Skadu Altus. It's on this sleeping dude in this hidden area here. As for the Dragon Cult incantations, you can get the Lightning Spear and the Honed Bolt by purchasing them from Muriel or Korin after you give them the Dragon Cult Prayer Book, which you get from this knight. You can get the Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike by getting this prayer book in the Crumbling Farum Azula.
Now for Fortisax's Lightning Spear. You can get this by trading Lich Dragon Fortisax's Remembrance with Enya at the Round Table Hold. The Knight's Lightning Spear is found in the Scorpion River Catacombs, in this hall, the second time you encounter this weird eyes thing behind this pillar. To get the Dragon Bolt of Florisax, follow Tiolier's questline until he gives you his concoction. Then, talk to this woman here and give her Tiolier's questionable juice. Now, all you'll have to do is beat Bale. Yeah, no easy feat. And once the dragon is defeated, head back to the priestess to see her sleeping, and pick up the spell from her, along with an awesome Spirit Ash. For the Electro Charge, enter the Fog Rift Catacombs. You'll find it on a corpse in this room. Alright, let's fast track through the talismans and the crystal tiers. The Radagon's icon is found in Rea Lucaria on the second floor of the Debate Parlor. For the Lightning Scorpion Charm, enter the Wyndham Catacombs. Enter this room that's sealed by an imp statue and pick the talisman up. To get the Godfrey icon, enter the Golden Lineage Everjail and defeat Godric's discarded cousin. Then, just get the Dragon Crest Great Shield from the usual spot, and that completes the set. For the Crystal Tiers, both are fortunately dropped by the same Erdtree avatar, which you'll find guarding this minor Erdtree. If you don't have access to the DLC, you can skip the Death Knight set and just equip the Haligtree Night Helm, which are dropped by these guys, to increase your faith by 2 points. Pair it with the Malformed Knight set, and you should have a thematically suitable build. As for the Dragon Bolt of Florisax, you can just forego this and stick with the Electrocharge spell. And that's that. Now to test the build. First off, let's see how it does against Margit. As expected, the build is very OP against an early game boss. The lightning spears deal over 1000 damage, one strike from the axe deals over 800 damage, and the other spells are way too powerful for him at this point. Poor Margit never stood a chance. He falls in just 50 seconds. Commander Nile is a bit more resilient. Although his summons immediately falls after one hit of the Knight's Lightning Spear, Nile himself takes over 1600 damage per hit, which is only a fraction compared to his massive health. That said, after a string of lightning spells and axes to the face, he too falls easily in just 1 minute and 30 seconds. Alright, now it's time to face Placidusax. My main tool against this boss is the Knight's Lightning Spear. It is our most effective spell. With all buffs active, each strike from this spell, as long as all lightning spears hit, takes away over 1600 of his HP. Our melee attacks aren't too impressive for this fight. One combo only deals over 1300 damage, and a whole string can take up about 4 seconds. That leaves us too open for a counterattack. I was able to capitalize on Placidusax's slow wind-up times during a few instances by using Fortisax's Lightning Spear, which removes over 2300 of his HP all in all. So with the Knight's Lightning Spear and Fortisax's Lightning Spear, I was able to defeat this ancient Dragon Lord in 5 minutes. Against mobs, our other spells like the Honed Bolt and the Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike prove their usefulness. The Ash of War lets us close gaps fast, so we have the option to approach enemies right away if we don't feel like hurling a lightning bolt at their faces. The enemies and bosses that are resistant to lightning attacks, which is our main damage type, include Astil, Malekith, and Bale. Here's a full list if you want to take a look. Thankfully, there are no enemies in Elden Ring who are fully resistant to our damage type. On the other hand, a wide range of enemies are weak against lightning. Here's a full list, but a few notable ones are Renala, Morgott, and the Putrescent Knight. All in all, this build rewards timing and familiarity with the build. Juggling between your melee option and incantations can be overwhelming at first, but knowing when to use both will make you unstoppable. The Euporia build. The Euporia is one of the most hidden weapons in the whole game, and for good reason, because it also happens to be one of the best weapons you can wield. It's a twin blade, which means it's fast, and it has a feature that encourages you to be as aggressive as possible. Euporia has a charge-up mechanic where it starts to glow gold after a few hits, and this isn't just a cosmetic glow-up either. When this happens, your weapon gains a boost of 5% holy damage for about 15 seconds. Not only that, but your weapon skill, Euporia Vortex, gets supercharged too. Now, for the rest of the build, starting with your armor, you can pretty much wear whatever you want with this one. I'm only donning the Elden Lord armor here for aesthetic purposes. Style points never hurt, am I right? As for your stats, just follow the numbers you see on screen here, and you'll be good to go. For talismans, we're running the Shard of Alexander and Rotten Winged Insignia, which boosts our damage by a maximum of 13% with successive attacks. The Two-Handed Sword Talisman, which increases our power by 15% when we two-hand our weapon, which is what we'll be mainly doing throughout the run, and the Dragon Crest Great Shield for defense once again. For your spell, we'll only need the Golden Vow to buff your
Alright, I'm done eating my granola bar. I just used the bathroom. Let's get back to playing some Elden Ring. Getting my ass.
Your attack by 15% and
I'll probably come back and watch this video after I beat the whole game. I'm finally like, okay, now, where's all the good shit? Let me see.
Could you help us out, Cully? You? Yeah, you there? Stop pretending you can't see me. Why won't anyone look me in the eye? I'm not that ugly, am I?